The Pussycat Dolls were never a real girl group. From the beginning, they were nothing but a marketing scheme to sell music, concert tickets, merchandise, and TV shows until it all went crashing down. In part 1, we will see how Robin Antin transformed the Pussycat Dolls from a popular but small burlesque show into a mainstream music act through a savvy but cunning business deal. We will analyze the making of their underappreciated first album, the unfair record deal the Dolls signed, and how Nicole ended up singing 90% of the vocals, including back vocals. We will take a look at the iconic visual identity created during their early era in their music videos and how they contributed to the hypersexualization landscape of the Y2K. We will see how the Dolls, even those who did not sing, contributed massively to the brand's success and explore their numerous chaotic live performances, fueling speculations of acute tensions within the band. And make sure to stick till the end for my favorite chapter covering how the Pussycat Dolls brought us some of the most bizarre reality TV shows on the CW channel. This is the complicated legacy of the Pussycat Dolls, Part 1. Chapter 1: Sunset Strip. For many, the Pussycat Dolls symbolize the hypersexualization of the Y2K, but their story starts a decade prior, in the bustling nightlife of Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. The Pussycat Dolls started as a burlesque dance troupe. The idea came from Robin Antin in 1995. At that point, Robin was a choreographer in LA. She was also a dancer. Look at this picture of her rehearsing with Michael Jackson for the Blood on the Dance Floor video. Robin will be a recurring character in this video and the next. In the mid-90s and early 2000s, she would put on weekly shows at the Viper Room on the Sunset Strip, paying tribute to and modernizing the burlesque aesthetics of the 50s and 60s. The Pussycat Dolls show became so popular that they eventually moved to a larger venue on the Strip. The show at the Roxy Theater drew bigger crowds and became known for their celebrity guest appearances. Look at these archival footage of Christina Aguilera performing with the Pussycat Dolls. Here's Carmen Electra, and even Paris Hilton was one of their guest performers. When you think of the Pussycat Dolls today, you probably think of this lineup: Carmit, Jessica, Ashley, Nicole, Kimberly, and Melody. But the Pussycat Dolls were different back then. They were a larger, more homogeneous group performing together as a troupe. Think of how the Cirque du Soleil performs as an ensemble. Kind of the same idea. Of the 6 members of the recording era, 4 originated from the burlesque troupe. Carmit joined the Pussycat Dolls burlesque show in the 90s in the early Viper Room days. She's definitely the OG Pussycat Doll. Take a look at some archival footage of her time working the stage. Jessica, Ashley, and Kimberly also performed as part of the Pussycat Dolls burlesque era, but they joined later in the 2000s. Over time, the Pussycat Dolls Sunset Strip show became the talk of the town in Hollywood. Robin Antin and her brother Steve Antin, who will later go on to make Burlesque, the movie with Cher and Christina Aguilera, filmed the live shows and used the footage to initially pitch the Pussycat Dolls to record companies as a Broadway-inspired soundtrack. But it was not meant to be. Instead, the magic connection happened when Gwen Stefani was invited as a guest performer, and she invited Jimmy Lovin, the chairman of Interscope Records, as well as music executive Ron Fair, to come see her. They immediately saw the commercial appeal of Robin Antin's vision. This led to a major partnership between Interscope and Robin Antin. The deal went something like this. Interscope and Robin would split profits down the middle across all future Pussycat Dolls ventures, 50-50. Jimmy Lovin assigned Ron Fair to oversee the development of a major music project involving the Dolls. Robin Antin would be the creative director in charge of the group style and choreographies. This meant finding songwriters to craft a unique sound, and most importantly, finding the perfect powerhouse vocalist to carry the group forward. But the deal was broader than the album they wanted to make. The agreement between Antin and Interscope gave the record label the rights to turn the Pussycat Dolls into a broader brand, including TV shows, DVDs, Vegas casino lounges, makeup lines, and even toys. In other words, long before the Pussycat Dolls became a mainstream music project, they were a business venture meant to profit Interscope and Robin Antin. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button, it really helps. Also, if you're early watching this video like first week after its release, you can hype the video. It's a new-ish feature that's made available for small creators, and it sort of hacks the algorithm, and it really helps. But no matter what, I'm just happy that you're here and that you chose my video over the other videos. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. At that point, the tentative group was made of Carmit, Jessica, Ashley, and Kimberly, all plucked from the burlesque act in LA. Sia Batten and Casey Campbell, who were also original burlesque dancers during the Sunset Strip era, were selected to transition into the pop group, but they left before the first album was released. This was 2003, the era of Mariah Carey, Beyonce, and Christina Aguilera. None of these girls could carry a mainstream pop record that would compete against major artists of that time. Don't worry, we will give the girls the respect they deserve later in this video, but singing was not their main talent. Let's just say that. So Ron Fair and Robin Antin launched an audition process to find a lead vocalist for the group. Melody was recruited through that open call process after seeing on TV that the Pussycat Dolls were auditioning singers. Nicole was also recruited as part of the audition process, although she was personally recommended to Interscope by will.i.am, who knew her from previous work in the industry. The crossovers between the Pussycat Dolls and the Black Eyed Peas are numerous, including this early cameo in their video for Shut Up. The BEP and will.i.am will return sporadically in this video and the next. Nicole showed up at the record label at the last minute while they were in the final callback stage of the audition process. She was so good and had so much star quality that they made her the lead vocalist that same month. It also helped that she had experience in the business, most notably with her group Eden's Crush. I know Nicole gets a bunch of crap these days for her politics, we'll get to that in part 2, don't worry. But in this video, we will see how Nicole got a bunch of crap back in the days too, for allegedly not allowing the other girls to sing. But we have to give props where it's due. Nicole is an amazing vocalist. Don't believe me? Go watch her performing on The X Factor. Go watch her Phantom of the Opera performances. Nicole is that girl. Like her or not, she's insanely talented. And she really carried the dolls vocally, there's no question. I will praise Nicole's talent repeatedly in this video, but please don't interpret this as an endorsement of anything else. I'm just stating facts. The girl is talented as f***. Chapter 2: The Recording Deal. The dysfunctional dynamics of the Pussycat Dolls started before they even released their first album, PCD. For one, we just saw how the group was formed as a result of a business deal between Interscope and Robin Antin. And with the recording group newly formed, they would need to sign a record deal. Record deals for new artists are notoriously predatory, and keep in mind that the Pussycat Dolls were formed in the 2000s. Artists who dreamt of making it big then couldn't leverage social media. They needed a record deal to back them. I worked in the music industry early in my career. That might be good for a separate video if you want to talk about that, but in this video, if you allow me, I would just love to nerd out a little bit about their record deal. Let's just say it was a bad deal for the girls. Nowadays, deals labeled as 360 degrees are common. Because of the streaming era, there isn't much money to be made on individual albums, unless you're Taylor Swift or something. So naturally, record labels need more revenue streams to justify backing an album project. In short, a 360-degree deal means that as an artist, your record label would produce and promote your album, get a cut of the profit from that album, as well as everything around it, including a cut from the tour profit, the merch, and so on. You get the idea. But in the 2000s, 360 deals were not as common as they are today. Yet, that's what the Dolls signed, except it was even worse. The deal essentially structured the payouts as though the Dolls were salaried employees. Yes, That's right, salaried employees. This would apply to so-called backup members, meaning Ashley, Kimberly, Jessica, Carmit, and even Melody were employees of the Pussycat Dolls. They were paid a fixed salary, which is shitty because when you record music, royalties is where the money's at, especially if you contributed to the writing of the songs. But that's a whole different topic. On the other hand, Nicole had a different deal, a more lucrative one. She was signed as an independent artist to Interscope, and that would come with immediate benefits like songwriting credits, which are lucrative if those songs become hits. Apparently, Nicole also got a cut of the group's primary revenues. It's hard to tell what that implies, but it's definitely a privilege the other girls did not have. And later down the line, her deal would come handy on the road, where she'd get her own separate tour bus and special hotel accommodations. In other words, Nicole became a business partner in the Pussycat Dolls venture, whereas the other girls were mere employees. But is it so unfair when you consider how disproportionately Nicole worked on their first album? Chapter 3: The PCD Album. In this segment of the video, we will analyze in depth the Pussycat Dolls' first album, simply titled PCD.
People don't even know the story. They have no idea.
I truly think it's an underappreciated music project. It's also a good way to understand how every member of the Pussycat Dolls was short-handed from the start. Yes, even Nicole. Despite the illusion of a girl group, in reality, the music was never a collaborative project. I mean, it's abundantly clear when you listen to the album. 90% of the album is Nicole's vocals. This includes lead vocals as well as back vocals. They literally layered her voice to sound like the group was singing, when in fact it's just Nicole's voice duplicated over and over again. In that sense, it sounds a lot more like the way they produced Janet Jackson on records like Demita Joe, with her voice being layered multiple times for background vocals and harmonies. And for reference, some artists don't even sing 90% of their vocals on their solo albums. Just to put that into perspective, let's compare that number with another girl group. The Pussycat Dolls had 6 members, Girls Aloud had 5, so it's a good comparative. Let's take Cheryl. In the band, she sang roughly 25% of the total vocal lines. And when she went solo, she sang about 70% of the vocals on 3 Words, an album produced by will.i.am. The rest of the vocals on the album were filled by back vocalists or featured artists. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But in comparison, Nicole sings more on the group album than Cheryl does on her solo debut. Think about that. It's totally abnormal for a girl group. And funny enough, Girls Aloud made public comments on the matter.
Is it all down to lead singer Nicole's vocal talents?
I don't know about that. You never get the chance to hear anybody else, so you just assume she is. Apart from that girl that really annoys me, that goes yeah all the time. You never really hear anybody else.
But could she cut it going solo for good?
I don't know if she could. I don't know if she
I
could.
think that's why they launched it
You're
with
up
the girls
against
in the beginning.
so many fantastic solo artists out there. You've got the likes of Beyonce, Christina, you know, Britney when she's at her best.
I love the chaos that is Girls Aloud. If you want me to cover them in a separate video, let me know in the comments down below. I think it would be very interesting. The PCD album is essentially a Nicole Scherzinger record.
Melody sang a bit here and there, but the records were Nicole. You know, with the exception of an occasional ad-lib, but they were Nicole. They were created with her.
She carried the album from start to finish, so it is certainly unfair that she was forced to share the spotlight with other girls for marketing reasons. Nicole offers a stellar performance on this first album. Her tone, her attitude, her rhythm, and the flexibility in her vocals are all amazing. The first half of the album is made of sexy hits like Buttons to emotional ballads like Stick With You, and the other half is made of covers like Feeling Good, classic Pussycat Dolls songs from the burlesque era, genre like How Many Times How Many Lies, and some more original songs. Nicole sounds good on every track. I never skip a song on this album. Although the hits are really front-loaded, the second part of the album hits hard too. Bite the Dust could easily have been a single. We have to give credit where credit is due. Nicole is a good vocalist and the PCD album still holds today. Also, she is credited as a co-writer on many tracks, including major hits like Buttons and I Don't Need a Man. On other tracks, she's credited as a producer for vocal arrangements. Nicole contributed to the making of the album beyond her lead vocals. She was fully involved in the creative process. This is what I mean when I say that Nicole was short-handed. PCD is a Nicole Scherzinger album through and through, from lead vocals to back vocals. She contributed to the writing and the production, and yet she was forced to share the spotlight with other girls who would appropriate her vocals and write off her talent. It's not their fault either. Everyone is being used in this situation, but imagine how it must have felt after you put all this work into your album. The other 10% of vocals on the album include limited back vocals from the girls, limited solos like Carmeet in Beep, and ad-libs by Melody. We will talk in more details about Melody later in this video because I have a lot to say, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm critical of her participation in this project. Needless to say, Melody was also short-handed in the deal with the Pussycat Dolls, but for a whole different reason. She was sold a pipe dream to be part of a girl group and work with major producers, and yet she walked into recording sessions for a virtually finished album with space only for ad-libs. She was also promised more solo vocals on the next album, more on that later. Apparently, many of the other members did not hear the finished tracks until the album was done.
I'll never forget I finished the album, PCD. And Ron and I brought the girls into the studio and we played it for them. It was the first time they'd ever heard the music. Do you understand what I'm saying? We played the album for the Pussycat Dolls. It's the first time they ever heard the songs.
The Dolls were also short-handed in the deal, obviously. If they had dreams of building their own music career, they were instead relegated to lip-syncing to Nicole's vocals in music videos and live performances. In years later, many girls expressed frustration for being treated as glorified backup dancers for Nicole. The burlesque era girls are extremely talented in their own right and undeniably contributed extensively to the success of the project, as we'll see when we analyze their music videos. But before we do, I have to praise this album for what it is, an exceptionally well-produced record, with real instruments meeting synth sounds. If you take a look at the credits for many songs on the PCD album, you'll see mentions of the PCD Orchestra, which was a specialized session string and brass ensemble assembled by Ron Fair specifically for this album. It was made of professional Los Angeles studio musicians brought together to provide string and orchestral arrangements, and it sounds grand. I have a weird pressing of this album in my collection. It looks like this. I also remember getting this before like they officially released this on vinyl. I'm not even sure if it's like official. I think it's a DJ pressing, or perhaps it is like an illegal pressing. Like I got this off of eBay or something. I know now there's like a red pressing of this album and all that. This is like way back in the days. It was not available. So I think my best guess, but again, I haven't done a ton of research on this, but I think this is a DJ pressing meant for promotional use in clubs, or it's just an illegal pressing that I got scammed on, I guess. When I think of the Pussycat Dolls sound, I think of the extensive use of strings in songs like Beep, or the iconic violin in Buttons creating the main melodic pattern throughout the song. I think of the use of record scratches on songs like Doncha, and high-pitched sounds like the triangle or the xylophone in I Don't Need a Man. The brass sections throughout this album bring so much drama. I Don't Need a Man culminates in a chorus filled with brass accents. It's so powerful. There is an incredible flute solo on Right Now that always gets me. Maybe I'm biased because I play the flute myself. I actually played the flute 2 videos ago. I'll put the link here somewhere if you want to go and listen to it later. And the percussion arrangements are tight from the first to the last song on PCD. And the album has depth, it has something to say, it's not just sexy songs. Just go listen to Stick With You again. It's a very good ballad, the orchestration is amazing. When the harmonica hits at 135, chef's kiss. The piano, the strings, the xylophone. When the strings finally join at 311 to carry the final chorus, it's so good. I get chills every time. No wonder this song was nominated for a Grammy. And Nicole's performance is so earnest. You can't take that away from her. PCD is an underappreciated project. I will die on this hill. When you pay attention to the songs, the vocal performances, the arrangements, the mixing, it's truly impressive. And I think it was underappreciated because of the promiscuous sexuality that accompanied it visually. Chapter 4. The videos. The Pussycat Dolls' first album proved to be very successful. Not only were the singles catchy, they also came packaged with great music videos, all of which are well produced and edited. I can't stress how well edited they are. I think it's fair to say that the Pussycat Dolls provided a visual experience for this album. Of the 12 songs on the album, 6 have music videos. Half of the album. That's a lot of visuals to analyze. The music videos are where the vision for the Pussycat Dolls really shine. It's where Robin Antin's creative direction comes together with Interscope's music production.
Robin, you design and create all their costumes.
I do. I just know exactly what it takes to look like a pussycat doll, feel like a pussycat doll, that the vision that what they're wearing is so important for me.
The first video the dolls released was for their cover of Sway, but it wasn't part of their PCD album, although it has since been added to a re-edition of the album in recent years. At the time though, it was just a promotional video for the movie Shall We Dance. Have you guys heard of it? The first true Pussycat Dolls music video was Don'tcha. And right away, we can see what Interscope saw in Robin Antin's vision. The dolls really sell the music. All of them look fabulous, the choreographies are tight, the styling is good, and they are charismatic beyond belief. You cannot say that the girls, as little as they sang on the record, did not contribute massively to the success of the Pussycat Dolls, especially because the formation relied heavily on visuals. I would argue that Nicole needed the dolls as much as the dolls needed her. This is evidenced by the struggles she'll later encounter as a solo artist. More on that in part 2 when we explore their second album and the downfall that followed. Interestingly, the next single to come out after Don'tcha was Stick With You, which feels like a deep cut. I can only suppose it was released to show the Pussycat Dolls were not just sexy, they had something to say too. But the video is interesting nonetheless. In it, they try hard to sell the idea that all the dolls sing, when it's so clearly a Nicole solo throughout. Beep is the third video they released, featuring will.i.am, and here too the power of the group comes together neatly, with each member shining and contributing to the aesthetics of the group. From that point on, we start to better understand the aesthetics of the dolls, but it's the next video that really defined their aesthetics for the long run. The Pussycat Dolls never released a better video than Buttons. I think it's their most emblematic video for many reasons. It has the clearest visual representation of what the Pussycat Dolls are remembered for. The music video version of the song also includes a Snoop Dogg feature, which legitimized the dolls as contemporary music artists, and it also made it acceptable to play at house parties around straight guys. If it's good enough for Snoop Dogg, it's good enough for the bros. It's also very clear that the dolls appeal to the male gaze. We'll touch on that in a second. And I think it's interesting that Snoop Dogg refers to Nicole as the lead Pussycat in his intro. He's sort of saying out loud what we all thought. And yes, here again, Nicole is selling the vocals and working it in the video. She has a lot of solo shots and they're all fabulous. But the other girls are really selling the fantasy of the Pussycat Dolls as a world-class entertainment act. As mesmerizing as Nicole is, we're always happy to see the dolls together in one shot. They're all so captivating, and it's so powerful when they walk together in the beginning. They look so good together. Robin's vision works. I think the styling in this video is also quintessential Pussycat Dolls aesthetics. The hooded one-piece outfit with the iconic Pussycat Dolls font. I believe the font is called Old London. If there are font experts watching this, let me know if that sounds right to you. They use this font repeatedly throughout the years, if you guys remember. The laced boots, the one-piece suit with side cutoffs, and the hairstyles are so iconically PCD. And look at the heart-shaped PCD logo on their outfits. It's just so iconic. And the gold lighting on the black soundstage is elegant and sexy at the same time. Just the whole package works amazingly well. This video was released in 2006. It was not exactly the era of body diversity, far from it. The girls must have been under immense pressure to maintain a certain aesthetic. And I remember this specific video raising questions about the message they were sending to young girls, which was also a legitimate conversation to be had in the Y2K. Hypersexualization of the 2000s merit a video of its own, but we will talk about it throughout this video here and there. It was also an era that valued extreme thinness, and with the resurgence of thinness as the default beauty standards these days, it's a conversation worth having again. But to be fair, the dolls look more like they're hitting the gym and Pilates classes when compared to other celebrities of that era. Regardless, they were most definitely under pressure. Nicole publicly talked about how her time with the dolls exacerbated her issues with body image, mentioning eating disorders, and how much she would hit the gym to meet the expectations of being a Pussycat doll. When we analyze the TV shows later in this video, you'll see how some contestants were put under pressure to fit the Pussycat Dolls mold and labeled as overweight, despite looking totally healthy. The Buttons video also features physical prowess from the 4 OG Pussycat Dolls raising their legs all the way up. It's visually striking, and it became part of the visual identity of the dolls, something Nicole cannot achieve on her own. Them raising their legs to the gods is so iconically PCD, it's almost in every music video they made and in many live performances too. So even though sonically it's a Nicole song with a few melody ad-libs, she could not sell the fantasy alone. There's just no way. The dolls work so well as a team here. I feel like the dolls' talent was not fully appreciated at the time the way that we appreciated Nicole's talent. I will never understand why they did not brand the Pussycat Dolls as a multi-talented entertainment act with a strong vocalist, a strong secondary vocalist, and fierce burlesque dancers. Perhaps the dolls' talent would have been appreciated as individuals for what they did best: dance. I never understood why they insisted on selling the Pussycat Dolls as though they were all singers when we could tell they were not singing much or at all. Why not value them for their strong vocal talent and value them for their impressive dancing skills? It just feels wrong to view the dolls as weak singers when they could have been viewed as strong dancers. Look at that, how badass is that? I think the Buttons video also perfectly exemplifies how the burlesque era collided with the contemporary hypersexualization aesthetics of the Y2K. It will forever be my favorite PCD video. If I were to rank the PCD videos, this one would be God tier. This is the gold standard. By the way, I will be ranking the Pussycat Dolls music videos in a separate release because this video is long enough as it is now, so subscribe for that. I think it's going to be quite interesting. Also, let me know if I remember this correctly or if it's the Mandela effect, but I swear there used to be 2 versions of the Buttons video. One that was labeled as the regular video and one that was labeled fire version, where the dance floor catches on fire. Am I crazy? I'm pretty sure there used to be a regular version and a fire version. The video with over 1 billion views on YouTube in the present era is the one with fire, but I remember this version being special or something. I don't know. Let me know if anyone remembers this too, or maybe it's just, like I say, the Mandela effect. The next video released was I Don't Need a Man, which is lyrically a female empowerment anthem. Nicole sings about not needing a ring on her finger to feel complete and how she can pleasure herself alone whenever she wants. But there is cognitive dissonance happening here when the message is paired with the visuals of the music video. It's time to address a major aspect of the Pussycat Dolls. So far, the lyrics and the accompanying music videos were somewhat aligned. Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot as me? Look how hot we are! Loosen up my buttons? Look, we're taking our clothes off. But here, the visuals and the lyrics are misaligned. They're saying I don't need a man, all the while explicitly appealing to the male gaze. In a sense, this video embodies best the contradiction that exists in their art. The Pussycat Dolls often talked about there being a pussycat doll inside every girl, which can be kind of controversial if your audience is made of younger girls, and they often frame their explicit reliance on sexy aesthetics as female empowerment, which was not a unique message at the time, by the way. It was very much of its time. But it still feels different than, say, the Spice Girls and their slogan of girl power. For the most part, the Spice Girls aligned lyrically and visually with the idea of girl power. They were appealing to girls, whereas the Pussycat Dolls were so heavily leaning into the male gaze aesthetically that their message of woman empowerment is a much harder sell, or at least it's a superficial take on that concept. And I'm not trying to shame them for their sexy aesthetics. There's nothing wrong with that. But do you know what I'm saying? Singing about not needing a man all the while so obviously appealing to the male gaze is a contradiction. Let me know in the comments if you understand what I'm saying. Regardless, the video for I Don't Need a Man is a visual break from Buttons with its bubblegum pink soundstage. It also stands out for its use of stereotypically woman props, as well as the portrayal of what is viewed as girly activities. Here again, the burlesque era aesthetics are combined with Y2K vibes. For instance, the Pussycat Dolls burlesque show often used a clawfoot tub as a prop on stage. Robin will also make use of that imagery in the TV show The Search for the Next Doll, more on that later. The final music video of that era was Wait a Minute featuring Timbaland. When compared to previous entries, I sense a certain restraint in this video. It leans less heavily on sexuality as the main proposition. We haven't seen the dolls wearing this much clothing since Stick With You. I find this video mostly forgettable, except for this kick-ass scene. It would not be a Pussycat Dolls video without a kick. As a kid, I thought, cool, kick it, sweetie. But rewatching these videos as an adult, I'm so impressed with the physicality of the dolls. I mean, come on, look at it. It looks so cool. But outside of the high kick, the Wait a Minute music video, in my opinion, lacks the visual identity of the Pussycat Dolls developed in previous videos like Beep, Buttons, and I Don't Need a Man. The visual identity built in these videos is the aesthetics they took on the road, as we're about to see. But first, Chapter 5, The Melody Problem. I did not know where to place this commentary in the video, so I decided to put it here. I'm gonna keep it short, but I just want to talk about what I call the problem with Melody. And let me be clear, this is not a problem with Melody the person. This is not to hate on her. I strongly believe that she was short-handed like the rest of them and dealt with a very difficult hand in the whole situation. Like I said earlier, this is a young girl with a dream who rolled into recording sessions for an album that was basically done. Think of that. It's not as though she had much of a choice or an opportunity to shine. As a kid, I liked her a lot, and I thought her contribution in the songs were great. I wanted her to have more solos, but listening to the PCD album now, I find her rare appearance distracting. Her ad-libs are pitch corrected for the gods, honey, and they don't really contribute anything that Nicole could not. That's just my opinion. To be fair though, Melody was young and inexperienced, and unfortunately, it shows. I'm not going to linger on this too long, but it feels like she was added to the group as a way to say, look, this is a singing group, she's singing on the record. They use her more as a prop than a singer, and let's be real, she was not hired for her dancing. In the videos, it's clear she isn't as strong of a dancer, at least she's not on the Dolls or Nicole's level. This meant she'd often be placed furthest away from the center in the formation, with Nicole in the middle. And in their live performances, you'll see how she isn't as experienced of a performer compared to the rest of the group. In researching the video and immersing myself again in their work, Melody feels more out of place than I remembered. Again, it's definitely not her fault, and I can't imagine how difficult it must have been to go through this as a newcomer in the industry, being only 19 years old. Like, girl, they did you so dirty. And I totally understand why she's not interested in reuniting with the girls ever, as we'll see in part 2. Chapter 6: Dolls Unleashed. Following the massive success of their first album, the Dolls hit the road. It was time to perform their hits live, and this took many forms. For instance, there was the PCD World Tour with stops in Asia and Europe. And fun fact, when they stopped in Malaysia, they got the promoters into trouble for violating decency laws due to their sexy performance. Interestingly, the Dolls never headlined their own tour in North America during the PCD era. Instead, they opened for major acts on their stadium tours. This included being the opening act for the Black Eyed Peas North American tour, and they teamed up with Danny DeCane to open for Christina Aguilera's very successful Back to Basics tour. The Dolls don't have an extensive history of touring as a solo act, at least not as much as you'd think, which may explain why they struggled selling tickets with their recent comeback. We'll talk about that in part 2. If you remember earlier in this video, we talked about Nicole's contract, and basically Nicole received preferential treatments as part of her record deal, including her own tour bus and separate hotel accommodations, so naturally this heightened tensions with the group on the road. I think this era of live performances is probably best remembered for their TV performances. For the most part, the visual identity they crafted in their videos translated well to TV performances, and there were many memorable performances. They performed Doncha at the MTV Europe Music Awards, Stick With You at the Radio Music Awards, and Buttons at the American Music Awards. More on that performance in a minute. They also appeared live on a variety of competition shows and just special appearances. This included performing Buttons on So You Think You Can Dance, Doncha and Sway on Dancing with the Stars, and Buttons at Fashion Rocks. More on that performance in a minute. They also performed Sway on Wetten Das, a medley of their hits on Good Morning America, Buttons on Jay Leno, and another medley at Live Earth. I flagged 2 performances we must watch in this chapter, and both are noteworthy for incidents involving Melody. The 2006 American Music Awards stood out in my research because of how infamous it became. The performance opens with Nicole and the girls who are really working it, kicking their legs up and pulling all the tricks. Jessica's chair falls at some point, but that's not a big deal, she just works it and the show goes on. Then the performance goes into the iconic dance break from the music video, flames going off, the crowd goes wild. Okay, let's pause it there. Did you notice anything weird? Look at the lineup. Yeah, Melody is missing. Until she storms the stage after the dance break and goes off with pitchy vocals, seemingly battling with Nicole, who hypes the crowd over Melody's ad-libs. It's a mess. It looks unplanned, and accounts of what really happened are not numerous. But a few years back, Melody addressed the situation on Entertainment Tonight. She gave a long explanation about being sick and how she couldn't learn the choreography on time for the performance, so they decided to perform without her and she would just jump in at the end. She also said that the American Awards were cursed for the Dolls. We will cover that when we analyze their next music project in part 2. But I'm curious to know what your theory on this incident is. I'm still undecided. The other problematic performance I flagged in this era is the 2006 Fashion Rocks number. Again, the girls are performing Buttons, and it's always a struggle to sing this song live. It's not as easy to perform as you'd think. Just try it at karaoke and you'll see. I know Nicole gets criticized for her vocals every time they perform Buttons live, but it's one of those songs that are meant for the studio. This time, the Dolls are all on stage, and they are giving the full fantasy in their leopard prints, cut out one-piece outfits, the little towel hanging at the back or something. You know, the whole PCD fantasy. But this performance is best known for Melody, quote, out-singing Nicole, which I would argue is inaccurate. Her runs are messy, often going off-key. It doesn't sound rehearsed, it doesn't even look rehearsed either, as Melody breaks the otherwise symmetrical formation, forcing Nicole to reshuffle on the side, causing a visual imbalance. I can guarantee that Robin did not choreograph it that way. The live performances of the Pussycat Dolls during the PCD era gave off the impression that they were not as rehearsed as we would expect after watching their music videos. The cracks were showing, and it would not take long before the group would fracture further and more violently with the making and release of their second album. But we will keep that for part 2, because right now it's time for Chapter 7, The Search for the Next Doll and Girlicious. The Pussycat Dolls present The Search for the Next Doll was a reality TV show that aired on the CW channel, and when compared to other reality shows like Making the Band or American Idol, Robin Antin's take on reality TV seemed to come with a limited budget. This show was kind of iconic, but they were also kind of scamming the contestants. The concept was simple. Robin Antin and Ron Fair are looking for the 8th member of the Pussycat Dolls. The winner of the show would go on to join the Pussycat Dolls just in time for their second album. Every week, the girls would have to complete a challenge as well as perform on the main stage. At the end of each episode, they'd eliminate a contestant. Don't get it twisted, this TV show served one purpose and one purpose only: make money for the Pussycat Dolls, because in the end, the winner in fact never joined the Pussycat Dolls. Throughout this video, I realized how much the Pussycat Dolls multiverse deceived its fan base over and over again. This is another instance. They really had us believe that the winner of the show would join the lineup, and it never happened. In the show, Robin insists that to become a Pussycat Doll, you must have it all. You must be a good dancer, that's a given, and you must be a good singer. That always sounded like a stretch to me, because obviously, by the time The Search for the Next Doll aired, we were acquainted with Nicole being the supreme lead vocalist of the Pussycat Dolls. So the show always felt a little phony when they had these 3 girls in the final. Chelsea, Melissa R, and Asia were always seen as the strongest vocalists, but not necessarily the strongest dancers. But what's the point in sending these girls to the final if the goal is to add one of them to a lineup of burlesque dancers? Were we meant to believe Nicole would share lead vocals with the winner of the show when she did not share the spotlight with Melody? As much as I loved the show at the time, when I rewatched the episodes today, the clear frontrunner to become a Pussycat Doll, aka to become a kick-ass charismatic modern burlesque dancer, it was obviously Anastasia. Who cares that her vocals were not the best? We would not hear her on the record anyways. Like, justice for Anastasia, oh my god. In the end though, it's Asia who won the show, which was my favorite at the time, by the way, and she performs with the dolls on the finale. And that was it. We never saw her again. She apparently opted to pursue a solo career instead. But the CW channel was happy with the show's performance and they wanted a sequel. Obviously, they were not going to search for a new doll when the previous doll rejected the offer. So instead, Robin Antin set out to create a new girl group made of 3 talented girls who could dance and sing and do all the things the Pussycat Dolls could do, but more urban. That's the way she would brand it, by the way. Don't come for me. The way Antin pitched the group was the Pussycat Dolls, but make it urban, which isn't Robin's strong suit, let's just say that. Anyways, the Pussycat Dolls presents Girlicious follow the same format as The Search for the Next Doll, but with the express intent to form a girl group in the end, an urban girl group. And that worked so much better as far as the format goes, because if we're starting a group from scratch, it makes total sense to have girls in the final who could sing and dance all at the same time. And the new cast of the show was a lot more dramatic, willing to play to the camera, and overall just more entertaining.
I feel like Elisa is a survivor. However, I don't feel like that's gonna make me change how I interact with her.
To be part of Girlicious, you can't be tomboylicious. It's Girlicious.
Earlier in the video, we talked about the pressure that the dolls must have felt. In this season, the TV show is especially cruel to a contestant named Jenna. They really wanted us to believe she was fat. Her whole storyline was being a good singer, an okay dancer, but oh boy was she fat.
Definitely hard being one of the bigger girls here.
Can you be this fat and be girlicious? Girl, please, she wasn't even fat in the first place. In other words, the show was very much of its era. One thing I will say about these two shows is that they did a good job at having a younger generation of viewers discovering old classics, some of which were burlesque classics from the Sunset Strip era. Like in one episode of Girlicious, they have the girls perform 13 Men, which is a song from the 60s. In an episode of The Search for the Next Dolls, they dedicate a whole performance to burlesque classics like Big Spender and the Pink Panther theme. It's really cool that they were able to share those classics with the younger generation. It really stayed with me. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that for some reason, it's Mark McGrath who was hosting the so-called live performances at the end of every episode, which always felt so random. And also, Lil Kim was a judge. I like Lil Kim's music and I like her on the show. I thought her feedback was constructive, but it's not a rap competition. Like, why Lil Kim? These shows were so silly, I swear. Also, I say so-called live performances because they are so obviously post-edited. Like, go listen to Natalie's solo in the final episode of Girlicious. It's auto-tuned for the gods, honey, to a point where I wonder if it's not just like re-recorded in the studio. Anyways, it's so funny. That episode is a whole vibe. And at the end of that episode, the final episode, they announced that 3 girls is good, but 4 girls is in fact Girlicious. So the group would be formed of Nicole, Natalie, Christina, and Tiffany. And right away, they premiered the video for their first single, Like Me, which is so urban, it hurts. Look at how urban they are. I've never seen anything so urban, except maybe for their next single, Stupid Shit. Again, this is the definition of urban. The vision is urban through and through. Nothing like the Pussycat Dolls. I'm obviously joking. The vision for Girlicious was trash. I'm sorry. I liked them at the time, but their work does not hold. Regardless, I must give the girls their flowers because Girlicious might as well be inducted in the Canadian Hall of Fame.
Someone has to make the Pussycat Dolls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Girlicious. And thank you to Canada for making that happen.
Yeah.
And again, thank you to everyone here for making Girlicious as big as they are. So
Very big in Canada. Now,
I mentioned at the top of the video how Girlicious found success in Canada, and I mean it. The girls were legitimately popular, and I have a theory to explain it. I grew up in French Canada, so I'm curious to hear your theory if you grew up in English Canada, because it might be different. But where I grew up, budgets were limited on Musique Plus, which was the French-Canadian version of Much Music, which was the Canadian version of MTV. Still following? Okay, so because budgets were limited on Musique Plus, when they bought the rights to a specific show, they would make the most of it, meaning that the search for the next Pussycat Dolls and Girlicious played non-stop on Musique Plus. Like, sometimes multiple times a day, sometimes they'd run marathons, and when the season would end, they'd just roll over and start at episode 1 again. It was a never-ending black hole of Girlicious episodes, and it went on for years, at least that's how I remember it. I just feel like we were so exposed to Girlicious that they became low-key iconic. I remember how excited everyone was at my high school when Girlicious announced they'd be at La Ronde for a special performance. Their first album is considered a flop in the US, but in Canada it went platinum. Actually, for real. That's why their second album was released under Universal Music Canada. They are low-key iconic here, so much so that they lip-synced to Girlicious on Drag Race Canada. So much so that Priyanka brought out Nicole for a surprise performance of Like Me, and I bet you many American viewers have no idea who they are. Girlicious' first album was released in August 2008, 1 month before Doll Domination, the Pussycat Dolls follow-up album. And you'll see how much Robin Antin wanted to lean into her vision of quote urban aesthetics during that era, a vision she did not master as well as the burlesque aesthetic. the doll domination era would be defined by weaker music singles, a loss of vision for their music videos, and more chaotic live performances, including actual meltdowns live when they opened for Britney Spears' Circus Tour. We will explore all that and much more in part 2, including failed solo careers, failed attempts at reuniting, and the controversial politics of the Pussycat Dolls. In the meantime, you might like this video or this video. As you know, I don't usually split my content in 2 parts, but since I'm going on vacation, I thought it would be fun to just release the first part so you have something to watch while I'm away. I will be writing part 2 on the plane, and I think it's going to be very dramatic, so subscribe for that, and I can't wait to read all your comments on my vacation. Bye.